We are at a really, I think, important place. I don't mean to master of the obvious here. Not just important, but tricky, delicate, big ramifications here, an inflection point with the Kraft ownership and this Patriots team. They are in a tough spot. They have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of moving pieces. They have a lot of things they have to navigate. And it's up to them to come up with the answers. And it's them. It is Robert and Jonathan and whatever influence Jonathan has, whatever that is. Yeah, he's involved there too. But it's up to them to get out of this mess. And it's a mess, and it is tricky. And Mike Vrabel is hovering, circling. The team is circling the drain. Getting out of Mayo and his staff is going to be delicate, tricky, expensive. If that's what they're going to do, hiring Vrabel or someone else is going to be tricky, expensive, delicate, if that's what they do. If they have the first overall pick, you're looking at a whole nother massive, huge, intricate decision because you're probably trading that pick. How are you navigating that trade? Who's negotiating that trade? Who's pulling the trigger on that trade? Who's then making the picks with those picks? Are you even going to have the number one overall pick? How are you handling this week? What are you going to do this week? This is a big one. This is a big one. What's your heart and soul as a franchise? Are you a team that just quits and tanks and lays down for a draft pick? Are you that kind of loser organization? Or do you stand for something more? And that comes from the top. So what are they going to do this week? And if they do end up with the first overall pick, you're sitting on all that money to spend. You're sitting on the first overall pick. You have a franchise quarterback and the worst roster in the league, and you're going to hand it back to Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo? Are you really? Okay, is that your call? Or are you going to blow it up and start over? And then how are you going to do that? And so, boy, there is a lot on the plate of the Crafts, and I think we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, no doubt. And you call it tough, but I think they're making it tougher on themselves, or Robert's making it tougher on himself in this decision to keep Gerard Mayo. I mean, I felt like after what we saw Saturday, and we'll get into that game against the Chargers, I know we're like a week removed from it, but it's worth talking about because we haven't had a chance to bite at that apple. But, you know, going into that game, and the talk of recent weeks has been, well, it has to turn into a calamity. That's one of the words that's been used. What you saw Saturday was a calamity. I don't think you can go forward with Mayo, Elliott Wolf, the rest of them. They all have to be blown out. But Robert has this commitment to Gerard Mayo for, I think, personal reasons and have things that have nothing to do with football. And he feels committed to him, which I think is the wrong decision. So they're making it tougher on themselves, or he's making it tougher on himself by still committing to Gerard Mayo. That might change, but my gut tells me from everything I've read over at least the last week, they're sticking with him and Wolf, and I think that's the wrong decision. Okay, I'm going to give you what my gut is telling me coming up. I'm going to tell you how they should handle this week coming up. But one thing I will circle back to that I said 3 weeks ago, that the final month is going to matter. Like, oh, totally. What it looks like, the aesthetics of these last 4 games.
Right, exactly, Murray. The feel that you have, the vibe, the optics, what does it look and feel like in the stadium? What does it look and sound like on the national broadcast? You know, the last 2 weeks you've had national TV, basically standalone games, and you actually showed okay in the first one, but, you know, this last week, like, woof, wow. So, like, that's going to make a mark. It's going to make a mark on the fan base, the tenor of the fan base. That's going to reflect the ownership. And I believe everything's on the table. Joe, what do you think at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, for personal interest, I did have the Patriots as the least amount of wins in the NFL this year. So they lose this week, and I'm very happy about that.
So you're leading with your bet.
Yes.
Okay. The lead story in Boston is Joe Murray's bet.
Well, the lead story is that I was right. I said that they were be the worst team this year in the NFL.
That's what I mean. Go ahead.
Right?
Yep.
They're the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I thought that everything that Gerard Mayo did in his early press conferences, him spilling the orange juice, I've talked about this a lot, that was the season. So if the Patriots' intention was to put a coach in there that had no clue what they're doing, it put them in the perfect situation.
Do you think that was their intention?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No. But at some point, like, we keep hearing that Kraft wants to stick with Mayo. My only thing is, if I don't want Mike Vrabel personally. Just personally. But if he's available, you got to get to him and he wants to come here, you got to do it early on. So as far as this weekend goes, You get the cameo from Drake May. You remove him from there. It's yay. And then you tank. This is the easiest situation. You guys want to talk about what they should do? The easiest thing is start Drake May, play Joe Milton the rest of the way, and call it a day. Get the number one pick, because I know you don't want to talk about draft picks, Mike, but the fact that you have the money that you discussed, the number one overall pick, that is a huge asset. That's something that they didn't have. The number 4 pick, what's that do for them? Them winning this week and getting the 4th pick? Jim, how many times have you talked about them potentially missing on Jaden Daniels, who's a Pro Bowler, by the way, right? And his team stunk last year and tanked, by the way, last year. They traded at the deadline. So I just look at it and say, this is, if you want to tank, now's the time to tank, because you look like more of a destination with the number 1 pick, all that money, and a new coach.
Let me circle back. Go ahead, Jim.
But if they do end up with number 1 and they're sticking with this regime, I don't trust them to do the right thing. This is why I want them gone. So this is with all due respect to your wallet, Joe, and I do want you to hit your bet. Sunday, I kind of don't care about. I care about them going forward and how this organization can change. I've said my piece about Jim Harbaugh. I think he's a bit of a hardo. But what we saw with that team Saturday, and really over the last couple of weeks, that's a guy that you want in terms of someone who's a culture builder, who can come in and implement and articulate and execute a clear vision for your organization. So I'm not the biggest Vrabel guy like Joe, but Vrabel can do that. And he wants this job, according to this Tony Pauline. We'll get into that story, who's had good information before. If he wants the job, that's the guy that should have the job, because that is a guy who can come in and get everybody to buy in. It's not Mayo. It's not Wolf. They all got to go. That's the biggest concern.
So let me just circle back to a 101, English 101. NFL football 101 kind of thing that I've been lecturing about all year. And I just want to reset it, because I started to sense a little bit in Joe Murray's tone there. Is where they are right now a good or a bad thing? The fact that they have a franchise quarterback on a rookie contract and are about to have the number 1 overall pick in the draft to control the draft board in the second year. Is this a good thing?
With this group, no.
I'm going to say no, but it's all they have, Mike. I'm going to say no. The answer is no.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not a good thing. It's odds are still stacked against you. And the fact that you're here is proof that you don't know what you're doing. Because it's one thing to have a high pick on an off year. That happens. That happens to even good franchises. That happens. To have a top 3 pick 2 years in a row, to go from the 3rd worst to the worst with a good quarterback, is a special level of incompetence that is nowhere you want to be. It's
Jetsian, and now you're becoming what the Jets have been over really, the last 12 years.
It means you're trash. It means you are a bad organization with incompetent or faulty decision makers. I don't think the Crafts are incompetent, but they're certainly on a cold streak, and they've certainly cut corners, and it reflects on those decision makers. So when you're this bad for this amount of time, and you get to the bottom of the bottom, you have that number 1 pick. Again, it's the first time the Patriots will pick number 1 since the Bledsoe draft, I guess. They picked number 1 with Rod Rust. Maybe that was that year. Or there was another time before that. When they drafted Irving Fryer number 1. What did it matter? Because you were a joke of an organization. Even if you draft a decent player, which Fryer was. Didn't they trade out of the next time they had the 1st overall pick? Didn't they trade out of it? Or was that the Cortez Kennedy? Whatever. I'm talking back in that era, late 80s, early 90s, and some of those down years for the Patriots, they had incredible draft position.
Yeah, they're one of the laughing stocks of the league, though, to your point.
What does it do? And so the fact that you're here is it's bad news. It's not a good thing. But it is, Joe Murray, to your point, an opportunity. Wow, what an opportunity. You did draft the franchise quarterback, we think. You are sitting on a ton of cash that you just have not spent. So that's coming. They're going to spend that money. You control the draft board into the next year, and that is a big spot. And you're going to hand it back to Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo. That's what you're going to do? Or there's going to be some middle solution where those guys come back, but you have either someone on top of them as a president of football operations overseeing it and really ultimately having final say. So now you're not really having those guys in place, or you're going to move some of the chairs around them You change. Mayo's going to stay, but his coordinators are going to change, or Mayo's going to stay, but his personnel guy's going to change. And okay, that's what you're going to in this spot. We talk about a massive, massive organizational crossroads that they're at, and the Krafts have got to figure this out. They're going to have egg on their face if they fire Gerard Mayo. It's going to cost them money to buy him out and that entire staff. It's going to cost them more to bring in the new guys and fully, legitimately staff the building, which they haven't done in a long time. There's going to be fallout for them firing a coach a year into the thing. There's going to be fallout of Robert making it so personal with Gerard Mayo and then turning on him. There's going to be fallout on a lot of different levels. Can they handle it? Are they ready for it? Are they going to do it? Is Vrabel even the guy?
That I have questions about.
Is that the guy? Is that the right choice? How come you're out on Vrabel?
I'm out because of his record. Like, wins mean something to me. And although he had success early on, he did not do well his final year and had issues with the GM and the owner. And what makes you think? And here's my other question about it. Why didn't they just hire him this year? Like, if he's available.
Well, and I think this was a corner that they cut. They had promised Gerard Mayo the job. It was in writing. If they didn't give it to Gerard Mayo, they'd have to buy him out. There's another check they'd have to write to someone not coaching their team. They were paying Bill Belichick as it was. They were not, whether it's financial, I think maybe it's just organizational arrogance or laziness or something that prevented them from going out and doing real searches and real interviews and a real look at their organization and turning it over. They just handed it to the next guys up internally. And so that's why, Joe. I mean, and I from the start, I thought this was obviously it had me, not just concerned, but I lost faith in the Krafts and their decision making then. And I don't think they've lost it as intelligent, good business people and sound decision makers. They're just, again, in a little run here where they are either cutting corners for whatever reason, or not fully invested like they once were, or just a bad streak, or what, I don't know. But I'm going to take it as that it's just a bad streak. And this is the time to snap. I mean, what a time to snap out of it. And this is the toughest spot they've been in by far. By far. When the Parcells left after that Super Bowl, they were still new owners, all sort of riding the high of that Super Bowl. Certainly they caught a lot of crap, but it's not like now where, well, they were handing over a good team, and they had a lot of things in place when they made that decision. When they were bringing back Bill, okay, Belichick, a little bit of a crossroads. Pressure, I don't think, was on nearly like it is now. Like, they are in a spot.
Even the Brady decision now it's not as big, I think, going as forward. I mean, that was huge, but.
So I in the last, couple days, my gut feeling on what's going to happen to Mayo and the coaching thing is sort of crystallized. I'll give you that. What they should do in this final week, I'm anti-tank. They absolutely, positively have to start Drake May if he's healthy and he wants to go. He plays. Don't be that team that sits out your starting quarterback who wants to play for a draft pick. You effing loser. Don't be that bad. Then you are, and you will forever be, name it, those teams that are always drafting first historically.
Browns, Jets.
Cincinnati,
yeah.
Browns, Jets, Jacksonville, what you name it. Name it. Trash. Utter trash. Do not be that team. He plays. If he's healthy and he wants to go, he starts that game. Now, you also have to lose that game. You've got to lose that game. So here's another one. Figure that out. However you do that, and you don't tell him to lose it. Don't turn him into the loser that you are. But you do your thing. And, of course, I am anti-tanking. I am anti-losing. I hate the draft. These draft picks can kiss the inside of my ass. I got no use for it. But I'm not that stupid. You have a chance to have the number one overall pick and control the draft board. You do it. When you're 3 and whatever, take it. Yeah, you're not going to build any culture winning this game. But you've got to middle it. You don't be so overt. You can't be that bad where you say, no, Drake, you're not going to play. You have a franchise quarterback who wants to play, and he plays. And now you got to figure it out. I don't know how you do it and put the right face on it, but you do it. He plays, you lose.
Yeah, he shouldn't sit. So I'm with you on this. I think, football players play. Like this talk of we got to sit him. Like, all right, if he gets hurt, that would be bad and a bad look at the team. But the kid wants to play. He's a gamer, and he's only going to get better with reps. I think Drake May should play. But you do need every advantage you can get at this point. They do need that number one pick because there'll be quarterback horny teams that'll want to move up. You need as many picks as you possibly can. You do need a number one pick.
One of the best stories, I think, in the NFL the last couple of years, one of my favorite stories, was the end of the 22 season. The Houston Texans, who had just drafted in the top 3 the year before or something like that, had the first overall pick. They had the first overall pick wrapped up, and they won 2 of their last 3 games, including week 17 or week 18, whatever, the last game of the year, where they're down 7 points late, and they kept throwing into the end zone. Do you remember this game,
of course.
Joe? You
Yeah.
must. Yeah. And they scored a late touchdown against Indianapolis with 8 seconds on the clock, and then you know what they did?
They drafted second.
They went for 2, and they got it. And they won that game, and they drafted second. And you knew who they ended up with?
C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud. And I believe in karma, Joe. I believe in good things happen to good people, and if you do the right thing will happen to you. So it was Lovie Smith at the time. By Lovie Smith and that Texans team going for those wins, they ended up with number 2 versus number 1, and they ended up with the guy. Karma. Love that story. For you, lose the game.
Yeah.
Lose the game.
Yeah, this one's different.
If they go balls to the wall and win it, I will respect it. And I would like to think that ultimately the football gods will reward them. It'd also be kind of fun to have the first overall pick and control the board. So, but May's got to play. Don't be that overt. Don't be that bad. Don't be that sad sack. Okay? He plays. Figure out a way to lose it. You've lost all his games anyway. It shouldn't be that hard.
He's won 1 game.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. He's won 1 game.
He's been playing and losing all year. So, just keep doing your thing. You've found the formula how to play him and lose. So just stick with the formula.
Well, with this defense, they can't stop anybody. So even if they are going to try, they're going to find a way to lose the damn thing.
Number 2, I think Mayo's done. I think they're going to blow it up.
You do?
I do.
What's told you this?
Nothing. My gut. This is the first time I've felt it all year. And it was really after the Chargers game. It's too bad. It's too dysfunctional. And the opportunity is too great. The opportunity. You have a franchise quarterback in-house on a rookie contract. You've got piles of cash that if you're just willing to spend it, you can spend it. And you have the first overall pick and control of the draft board. And I know you don't want to hear it right now. Good owners. You have good owners with a track record of success and making good decisions and being a part of a winning operation. And when you compare these owners to what else is out there, what's available, like Woody Johnson or the McCaskies in Chicago, that clown show, or Jacksonville, that second city minor league outfit, or out in Vegas with that dimwit and what's going on out there, there's no comparison. I know you're down on the Crafts. You should be down on the Crafts. I've led the charge on that for a while with how they've operated the team. They deserve a lot of criticism. Give it to them. Continue to give it to them, but also be real about the thing. You stack the Crafts up against Mark Davis and Shad Khan and his kid and Woody Johnson and his kid and the effing McCaskies and that disaster in Chicago, or who else? It's no comparison. This is by far the best job in the league. It's by far the best job in the league, if not just because of ownership, but because of the opportunity. Clean slate, clean books, money, draft position, franchise quarterback. This is the spot. So you're going to have the best coaches available. If Vrabel reportedly wants the job. If I'm Ben Johnson, this is where I want to go. I know he's been linked to Chicago. You want to go with that? Never mind
there or Jacksonville.
Never mind ownership in Chicago, the front office in Jacksonville. That quarterback is scary. He scares the crap out of me. You want to hitch your wagon to that? You want to come? If I'm Ben Johnson, I want this job over any other by far. So when are you ever going to be in a position where you get to attract the very best candidates in the sport? This is the best job in football. I'm convinced of it. You can talk about the University of Alabama or Michigan, whatever. This is the best job in football.
I think they're going to keep May until they can find someone who wants to come here, and I think that's going to be hard for them. So
right now, it shouldn't. Now it's not.
Well, listen, Vrabel's trying to get off to a fast start, right? If he wants to come to the Patriots, you got to fire Mayo now and sign Vrabel, or they're going to hold on to Mayo because I don't think other guys want to come here. I don't.
Well, here's another tricky part. If I'm Ben Johnson, I would. Ben Johnson would rather go to Jacksonville. Was he linked to Jacksonville?
Are they going to spend, Mike? That's a big question. Like, they want to if they go to someone that they're used to,
they will spend.
They need to be comfortable at being uncomfortable. Like, that's their problem.
They better spend.
It's gonna be Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. It's better. But is that what you guys really want?
So listen, let me give you another one then. This should be Ben Johnson's first choice. He should be your first choice too. It should be Ben Johnson, then Vrabel.
By the way, he went to Boston College, went to North Carolina, coached at Boston College, was a quarterback in North Carolina. There is some ties to him at least. Here.
I don't care about the ties. I care about the aptitude. I care about every time I turn on a Lions game.
You're watching some crazy
There's
play.
some hook and lateral on third down for a touchdown. It's like every time I turn them on, I'm out of my seat. Like, they're the best team to watch in the league by far, I think. And he's a quarterback guy. He's an offensive guy. You don't have to worry about losing him or his offense. If I'm Ben Johnson, this would be the job. If I were the Crafts, he'd be my guy. But everyone's all horned up for Vrabel, so and I see the obvious tie, and he wants to come here for a reason, and the Crafts will spend. I refuse to believe that that's what they are long term. They're in a phase here where they're not spending, or they're spending it on stupid lighthouses or soccer training facilities, or I don't know what they're doing. But when May comes up for a contract, they're going to pay him, and they're going to try and surround him, and they're going to spend. I believe, and I think Vrabel believes that, and I think anyone coming here is going to have to believe that. So, but anyway, I think Mayo's done. It's the first time I felt it all year. I felt there was no way Robert would do that to him after 1 year. There's no way Robert would incur the fallout of firing a guy after a year, especially that particular guy who he made it so personal. And,
he was making decisions based on emotion more than business.
But I thought there was no way I thought Mayo was safe. Everyone else might not be, but Mayo was coming back. I've changed my mind. And I just think it goes back to that thing I said. The last month was going to matter. And that game on Sunday is just so bad on so many levels. And now you're at this spot. Have I mentioned the first overall pick, controlling the draft board, young franchise quarterback, and money to spend with you listen to me, good owner? There's no other opportunity like that in football. And you'll get the best guy. And I don't know if you'll ever get the best guy again. And it's such a tough job. It is so that just maneuvering the draft board with the first pick, if that's what you have, who do you trade with and who do you take? It's, just having the pick and having the trade and having someone give you whatever, a bunch of draft picks doesn't guarantee anything.
So do you think Wolf's out too?
Yes, whole thing. Gone.
Hope so. I hope
gone.
Right.
Gone. I think they're going to give it to, hopefully it's Ben Johnson or Vrabel or the best candidate available, who I don't know who it is. But someone bona fide. And that bona fide coach has a personnel guy that he works with. And I'm not telling you the coach runs the building, but it's someone that's locked at the hip with the coach. And they start over with the whole thing. And that's what I think they're going to do, because it's gotten that bad. And the opportunity is too great. And the moving pieces, the degree of difficulty is too high. So just having that first pick quickly is no guarantee. You get so you trade down to number 4 and get extra firsts and extra seconds. Extra picks. If you suck, they're not going to matter. When Bill Parcells went to the Jets and handed Kraft back, what was it? 2 firsts? I can't remember the haul, but it was a
lot.
It was like 5 or 6 high picks. You know what Parcells said? They'll F it up anyway. I'm not even worried about it. And sure enough, Chris Canty, Andy Katzenmoyer, on down the line, you effed it up. So I'll give it to Greer and Wazenchuk and Carroll. Those guys don't know what they're doing. So just because you're in this spot, it doesn't guarantee. You still have to have people who know what they're doing. And it's clear the guys that you have here are not ready for this. And so But the Kraft's going to turn this whole thing just back over to these guys? No, they're not. They're not. And all the reports, they're all couched. The Krafts don't want to fire Gerard Mayo. The Krafts want to stick with Gerard Mayo. Barring something unforeseen, there's always a caveat. And I think that caveat is where we are now. And so that's my thought on that. Big spot. Huge.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.